All right. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have such a fun, exciting program today. All of the poets are here and we've been talking in the background, and it's sort of a reunion for so many poets. And we have so many new poets joining us from distant places. And that's all thanks to Gayl Teller for bringing us this amazing idea for an anthology a long time ago, months ago, back when I don't even think the vaccine was a hope for us yet. We hadn't even really gotten to thinking about that. So thank you to Gayl for bringing us this wonderful idea and for organizing it all. And we're just so excited to now have the physical book that we can look at. And as George Wallace says, these poets have bared witness to what's been going on recently, crisis really for everyone personally, historically. And so to have this book is just a beautiful thing, to hear the words of poets, the diverse amount of poets that contributed to this book. So thank you for that. I should also introduce myself, I'm realizing as we do this. My name is Caitlin Shea. I am the Events and Media Director for Walt Whitman Birthplace. And if you're not familiar with us yet, we are a museum that's located in Huntington, New York, which is on Long Island. And we invite you to come visit us in person for a tour of the house that Walt Whitman was born in 201 years ago. It'll be 202 years ago next month in May. So we have a lot of events online now as well, just like this that we're doing here today. And we invite you to come visit us online anytime. I'm going to be posting some links in the chat. We have this wonderful event for Walt Whitman's birthday where we'll invite anyone from anywhere to read from Leaves of Grass and make a video for us and share it with us. And we'll have a big event just hearing, diverse amount of voices reading Whitman, which Whitman, of course, would love, the poet of democracy. So that's coming up. Everyone is invited, so please submit those videos. We really appreciate it. We're also accepting artwork that is inspired by Walt Whitman in some way. So definitely join us for that. And I also want to mention quickly, we have a Jackson Pollock, Lee Krasner tour with an art tour coming together for a virtual event later this month. So absolutely look forward to that too. And I also want to always thank everyone who donates at the beginning of our program. It means multitudes to us. At the beginning of the pandemic, we couldn't foresee how we would reach so many people, but we have been able to. So even something small like $5 that you might spend on a cup of Starbucks coffee for us adds up in such a big way and supports our programs like this today. So thank you for that. And thank you to everyone who purchased the book and owns a copy of this wonderful anthology. We appreciate it so much. So I want to turn things over to Gayl in just a moment. I want to introduce her first. All right, and Gayl is really the organizing force behind this program, and we appreciate it so much. She had a vision, she brought it to us, and here we are today planning this. All right, Nassau County Poet Laureate for 2009 through 2011, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace 2016 Poet of the Year, Gayl Teller is author of 7 poetry collections, most recently Flashlight, New and Selected Poems, Word Tech Cherry Grove Collections 2019, and the editor of the poetry anthology Toward Forgiveness, Writers Inc. 2011, which was awarded a New York State Decentralization Grant for the Arts. Director of the poetry series at the Mid-Island Y in Plainview for 25 years, a Hofstra University professor, she has been the recipient of the Westmoreland Arts and Heritage Poetry Award, the Edgar Allan Poe Prize, a National League of American Pen Women Prize, and Peninsula Library Poetry Prize, a National Federation of State Poetry Societies Prize, and many others. So Gayl, thank you so much. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. We see all these poets coming together from near and far, and we're just so happy to have you with us to introduce them and to bring everyone together like you have. So thank you, Gayl. I'm going to hand it over to you right now.
Thank you, Caitlin, so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hello, welcome. It's Good to see you, even though you're in little boxes. I miss seeing all of you. Thank you, all the visitors that are here. Well, this has been a year, a time of great hardship, but also of great resilience. A time when our ordinary words just fail us. A time of global devastation from the pandemic, worldwide suffering, tragic loss of lives. In America alone, 1 out of 3 people have lost someone to the pandemic. This has been a time of unspeakable challenges, economic devastation, massive unemployment, poverty, hunger, homelessness, a time of great loneliness, people locked down, people isolated from each other by social distancing, schools closed, attempts at schooling made online, some with no schooling at all. This has been a time of racial strife, racial injustice. This time of unspeakable challenges has also shown us the durability of the human spirit. We have seen great courage, people committed to helping each other endure, going beyond their own needs to help each other. And it's been quite an experience to see. Your poems, eloquent, crafted, they vibrate, they resonate with what ordinary prose cannot. They function, they thrive with spiritual antidote for the traumas of our time, because they access our deepest feelings, our deepest experiences. Amazingly, your poems help us make this enormous leap, like going from one galaxy to another, to enter the sensibility of an individual who might be sitting right next to us. And yet at the same time, your poems have shown us the commonality of the whole human family. And that's so beautiful. I have to tell you, it's been such a great privilege for me to edit this book. I thank you, all contributors, for your powerful contributions to this historic record. I thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association for collaborating with me, Cynthia Shaw, the executive director, Caitlin Shea, events director, Michelle Gonzalez, Sophia Turin, and I want to give a big thank you to Robert Harrison for his very evocative cover photograph for the book. Now, while I did organize the book by themes, and they're thematically organized, today's reading is going to privilege those who are far away from the Whitman birthplace, because we do hope to have some live readings in the future, and people who live outside of New York State, out of our country, on the fringes of Long Island, may not be able to make these live readings. So we're going to begin with them. I want to thank you all for being here. It's really a treat, really. It's great to be all together like this. I want to thank contributors again. I wish you all good health, peace, and I want to quote my son, hopefully we'll meet in the third dimension. So we're going to get going. The first reader for today is Maggie Bloomfield. She's going to read her poem, Ode to Zoom. She comes from West Hampton Beach, New York. Maggie.
Thank you, Gayl. I didn't realize I was so far away. Sestina Ode to Zoom. And just thank you, Gayl, and thank you, Caitlin, and love to all you poets. Sestina Ode to Zoom. At the piano, I played the concert. I wore latex gloves, smiled behind a mask. It scarcely seemed to be music. Unable to slow my tempo, zoom along, nurture my classical flower. Like lilacs that cannot flower, the resonance of the concerto seems a dissonant zooming. The thud made by a glove, an odd muted music played by fingers in tiny masks. I long to rip away the masks, allow those notes to flower into glorious music, perform a true concert. I cannot do it in gloves. Let me try it in Zoom. The rectangles of Zoom offer faces with no masks, hands without gloves. They nurture Schubert's flower, raise a virtual concert into honest music. This freeing of music by the strangeness that is Zoom allows ecstatic concerts, offers artistry unmasked, opening like spring flowers I gather with no gardening gloves. Put on your ruby velvet gloves and enter the halls of music. Let your fantasies flower, your thoughts float and zoom toward a time without masks when normal life plays like a concert. Throw off masks and gloves. Poetry, art, and music flower in the windows of Zoom.
Thank you, Maggie. Our next reader, Martha Deed. She's going to read In the Year of No Funerals. She lives in North Tonawanda, New York. Martha Deed.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here and I'm honored to be part of the anthology. I did not wish to bury you like a cat surreptitiously, but to lend ceremony to a solitary burial you did not expect. I tried to remind myself, impossibly poor taste to remind you, that when my father died, my mother, who loved him, asked plaintively if she had to attend his funeral. So here we are, a procession of one. I drive you past the house we built, its yards now bursting with children's play stuff fit for a prince. And also past the first house, the one where you courted me by offering to mow the lawn. And I said it was too much commitment to have the neighbors see you marching behind my lawnmower in early morning. And then to the rural cemetery, to the grave dug by your 92-year-old brother-in-law, who measures and shaves a bit more soil from here and there, squares corners exactly, digs the grave deep and wide enough to accommodate your ashes, cradles your urn in loops of hemp, lowers you squarely, gently into that grave. And your sister reads poetry and blesses your body to the spirits. And we are not alone. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Martha. Thank you for that powerful poem. The next reader is Torm Olesuk. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. He's going to read Invisible Villains in the Air. He lives in Sag Harbor, New York. Tom.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gayl. It's
How
Oleszczuk.
do you say your name?
Okay, it's Oleszczuk. It's as if the
Oleszczuk.
Z's are H's.
Oleszczuk. Tom Oleszczuk.
Okay, thank you, Gayl. And this is a wonderful collection, and I'm very pleased to be part of it. My poem is on page 80 for those of you who actually have a copy handy. It's called Invisible Villains in the Air. an empty parking lot onto a coffee shop, open for takeout with wax paper sheets for the door handle to keep hands and handles clear. Face masks and gloves, only eyes to tell. Voices muffled, not to attract evil. We are all trying our best. A few are doing less than best. I want a haircut, a tattoo, a burger, a beer. Too many dead here. Blue scrubs collapsing at the end of shifts. Waiting rooms full. No places to go. A small vegetable garden field off the main drag. 2 small scarecrows. A spring to tell the grandkids about.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
Well, now all the way from Florida, we have an old friend, Vicky Iorio, reading The Cootie Factor. She is in New Smyrna Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
Hey, Vicky. Can't hear.
Yes. Yes, you can hear me.
Oh, you have to unmute, Vicky.
Okay, good? Okay. I miss everybody, but here's my poem. The Cootie Factor. 23andMe traced my daughter back to the Neanderthals. Not much of a surprise. Her father was a caveman. In the Bible, it's who begot whom. We are all related. In the Kevin Bacon game, we are all 6 degrees of separation. Facebook has shown we are all connected. We are the world. Old Coke commercial. Hands touching hands in a global group hug. Mi casa is your casa. My germs are your germs. COVID-19 has jumped from bats to humans. This butterfly affects us all. My family practices social distancing. We sleep in isolates, keep the windows shut to shut out the boogeyman. Some of my FB friends are doing a Hail Mary chain, 1,000 Hail Marys to vanish the virus. Good luck to them. I unfriend them all. I call my brick and mortar peeps, invite them over for wine and Scrabble. It's not you, they say. It's who you might have been in contact with, the bank teller, the supermarket cashier. It's who you kissed or fist bumped. It's Billy Bones and the black spot, the unwanted treasure that kept my child body up at night. I am back in first grade. Tag, you're it, and cooties. It is a war with an unseen enemy. It starts with a cough and a chill and ends with the choice of who is worth saving.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.
The next reader is J. Barrett Wolfe. He's going to read A Plague on All Our Houses, and he is coming from Binghamton, New York. J. Barrett Wolfe. Is he here?
I don't think he is here, Gayl.
No, okay, we will move along. Okay. The next reader is Lois Kipnis, reading March Memories from Pompton Plains, New Jersey. Lois.
Lois is here. You have to
Okay, am I unmuted now? Okay, thank you.
Hi, Lois.
Hi. Okay, sorry about that one. March Madness. How do I love the month of March? I don't. Not when my dad died, not when a friend died, not when children of 2 friends died. Not then, not now, not ever will I love thee, March, harbinger of spring, month of renewal, rebirth, promises of marching forward. Not when my husband never marched again, not then or ever will I love thee, March. How can I love thee, month of betrayal? I can't. You teased me with your promises of healing after winter's thaw, of hope for spring, season of growth and greenery, but delivered gangrene and depletion. How can I love thee, harbinger of death? You stole my husband's spring with multiple curveballs, no recovery, no home runs. How do I love thee? I don't. I loathe thee now, forever, and especially now in isolation from a pandemic, left alone to dwell on March memories.
Thank you, Lois. The next reader comes to us all the way from the United Kingdom, Worcestershire. Nina Lewis is going to read Empty Freedom.
Thanks, Gayl. It's an absolute honour to be included in this book of very strong, powerful poems. This was written 13 months ago. We're still in lockdown in the UK. It's our third one. Empty Freedom. Our road is quiet. Each neighbour reclaims their street parking. Life continues for workers. Most of us stay home. We are glad it's spring, for tree blossom and soft voices, dappled sunlight and the end of frost. Life can be heard in all our gardens. In the first 2 weeks of lockdown, trampolines, benches and gazebos were erected. Our new neighbours built a large wood cabin across half their lawn. We cut back winter shrubbery, enjoyed the tulips, wild bluebells, and tidied up the shed. Clocks move on an hour. Summer starts. Mornings are full of brightness and clear bird song. We meet people who've lived on the same road for years. The postcard system set up by number 12 ensures no one is left alone. We become family. Every Thursday night, we gather to clap and dance where traffic used to make it impossible. Watchful of the houses that don't appear, mark them with food parcels, a knock of kindness on their door. No red crosses get painted. Lord, have mercy on us all.
Thank you so much, Nina. Our next reader is Jennifer Muller. She's going to read Alone Together, and she is based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jennifer.
Thank you, Gayl. Thank you, everyone. Gayl, you're amazing. You did such a good job. And I'm brought to tears by some of these poems. They're just heart-wrenching and really amazing. So thanks for including. Alone Together. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the summer when life stood still. When I pressed my head into my daughter's hair and had nowhere else to go except into the woods, where we hopped over rocks and tried not to fall, and at times ended up in the water. In summer's oppressive heat, we drank from each other's souls and danced to the music of Elmo. We said no to everyone else. No, I can't help you, COVID. No, I can't go, COVID. With nowhere else to be but here, in this very moment, gazing into my daughter's precious faces, riding bikes with training wheels. Come cuddle, they'd ask. I just need to, just a little cuddle. And then I'd remember COVID, and there was nowhere else I would rather be. It was the worst of times. The news sputtered on with death counts too high to wrap my brain around. I left the room when the news of a small child's losing a parent was plainly announced after discussing the weather. So banal death had become. And with nothing else to do, I watched the stock market to judge others' hopes of when or if this would ever end. The loss of liberty. Can't go here, can't go there, COVID. Can't touch this, don't breathe that, COVID. In summer's oppressive heat, we donned masks and were paralyzed by fears and distrust of others. This apple may be contaminated, this toy may not be safe. Leave it sit a day or two to guard against the germs of people we don't know and never will and don't want to, COVID. Don't see your mother, COVID. Don't go to the store, COVID. Don't touch the carton of milk.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gayl.
Our next reader is Pramila Venkateswaran, reading States of Mind, and she is located in Atlanta, Georgia. Pramila, are you here?
Thank you, Gayl.
Ah, there you are. Hi.
Yeah, thank you. And oh my goodness, such wonderful poems. My poem is called States of Mind. My world has contracted to the 4 rooms of my house and the garden. The car sits idly in the garage. I don't go for a drive except to rush into Stop and Shop early in the morning, like a masked assassin to grab groceries that keep us nourished. I don't linger in any aisle, for COVID-19 could be hanging out anywhere in spaces of air newly left by human beings. I see the world around me as pockets of used air. How long does it take air to flow and renew itself? I sneak away from people like a coward who is hiding something and looking for a chance to flee. All my friends appear on the phone. I pretend I can touch them. I put my lips to the phone screen, kissing my mom. I'll be with you as soon as it is safe to travel. Be there in a jiffy. No chance, say the scientists. I want my mom to hope and dream of parties with the family. When doors slam shut, I turn to the poets to offer wisdom. They know how to create beautiful realms with images and soulful melody. You don't need anything else, they say, as I adventure with them, breathing their fragrant breath. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Pramila. Our next reader is Marvin Dingle. He's going to read If I Die Tonight, and he is reading from Rockville, Maryland. Marvin.
Thank you, Gayl. Thank you for including me in such a great collection of work. We currently live in Maryland, but my wife's from Levittown, so New York is near and dear to our hearts. So this is my poem entitled If I Die Tonight. If I die tonight, march on. For Ahmad, for George, for Brianna, for Freddie, for Botham, for Eric, for Trayvon, for Tamir. For that young black girl, Dejaria, who was thrown to the ground, kneeled on by a cop and arrested at that pool party in a bathing suit in Texas. Remember that? March on. For my grandparents, whom I never knew, who gave my father up for adoption, but I know dreamed of a kinder world. March on. For my parents, who taught me equality when they got none. March on. For my wife, who loved me and tried her best to understand the complexity of waking up Black in America. March on. For my 3 daughters, to whom I taught equality, but may never see it. March on. I tried to live my life treating everyone with love, so please march on. Because all these degrees I have didn't protect me from the tidal wave of hate that crushes and erases. March on after I'm gone. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Marvin. Very powerful. That's a very tough poem to follow. So I've been asked to read Robert Harrison's poem. He's not here, but he is our wonderful photographer. And so I will read his poem, Senior Shoppers. It was 7 a.m. at the supermarket, and only the seniors were there, separated by 6 feet, wandering down the aisles of food like ancient cave dwellers It looked like a raid of bandits from a Western movie, each one with a shopping cart, checking out first the price of bananas before raiding the meat department. Someone coughed by the canned tuna and was looked upon sternly. The old wisdom seekers moved away from this person whose luck ran out, trying to suppress just a cold. They almost fought over toilet paper as the 2-ply rolls tumbled off the shelves and bounced into the waiting hands of the most agile gray panthers. They waited to be checked out, spending their newly found stimulus money in a hurry before the treasury would run out of ink and be no more. They rushed back to their cars, tearing off their masks as they drove down empty streets, dreaming of their newly found things to eat. So thank you, Robert. Sorry he couldn't be with us. The next reader is Judy Turek, reading Web Shy, and she is reading to us from East Meadow, New York.
Hi, everyone. What a great crowd, 72 people, wow. So this will be the only time I'll admit it, but I'm reading from my age page number. I'm on page 58. Web Shy. We're in Hollywood Square boxes on a computer screen for poetry. Mic on, camera off, she says, not ready for my close-up. Hair and nail salons closed for months, cut and color, grays taking over, and stress adds more each day of this pandemic. Another virtual attendee won't clap. Don't look at my nails, she says, they're a mess. I hear men twitter as though these fragments of vanity are somehow misplaced in quarantine. Men attend wearing baseball caps, wanton curls licking the nape of their necks. Women wear sunglasses in place of makeup, wave away the open mic because they can't see to read. I am not web shy. I attended for weeks, applying makeup, some jewelry, putting on a fresh shirt to appear ready, presentable for a virtual poetry reading. I connected with my smartphone, mic on, camera on, and see myself in a small square on screen. This goes on for several readings before I say something that prompts the host to say they can't see me. Haven't seen me once since this virus took over our in-person venues. Never? Not once. But I see me, why can't you? Several attempts, retries, nothing works. I scour the internet for a webcam, laughed off by several retail salespeople. We haven't had a webcam in weeks. Amazon boasts one for, gulp, $87. And I'm thinking I might buy it. But then, intervention from a vanity muse, what else to call it, directs me to a website, to a local store, curbside pickup, ordered, picked up, and paid for in 1 hour, and it was $15. Web shy? Not me. I put on purple eyeshadow, some eyeliner, earrings, revel in the gray stripe on my scalp, growing wider each week, don't care. I can see me, and finally, so can everyone else. I feel like a part of something integral, a gathering of kindred spirits sharing isolation together. Yes, much better to see and be seen. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. The next reader is Barbara Siegel, reading Incongruity from Seacliff, New York.
Thank you, Gayl, and everybody. It's just amazing to be here with everyone. This is an incredible book, Gayl. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be a part of it. Incongruity. Outside my window, cardinal calls his generous red song. Hydrangeas drift their scent to me on the gentle breeze. I cook oatmeal with butter, brown sugar, and honey. Drink steaming cinnamon ginger tea. Robin weaves through the garden, alert for fat worms for his breakfast. I water the houseplants on the windowsill, the same sill that last night held puddles of moonlight. Sunlight infuses everything: asphalt road, aspiring moonflowers, babies in carriages, bicyclists, walkers, and runners, all earnestly journeying into their day. In a world vibrantly alive at this time of pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we will hear Karen Schulte reading Pandemic, April 2020. She resides in Central Islip, New York. Karen.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Gayl, for having me and for this wonderful book. Pandemic, April 2020. From her driveway, my neighbor explains our medical crisis in her no-nonsense voice while we stand at our prescribed distance from each other. The Chinese. It's no one's fault but the Chinese. They saw it coming. It makes no sense, she continues. The president, he says he has a pill, a drug, maybe ultraviolet, he says. This horrible disease will disappear soon, not to worry. She leaves me 2 lily plants for my small garden, careful to place them 6 feet away from where I stand. I dig some space for them near the azaleas. Next door, she has planted tulips in her window box where they shelter in place, as we do, my neighbor and I, not unlike the flowers, ramrod straight, petals still tight, waiting to unfurl themselves, triumphant dashes of yellow against a common sky we both share.
Thank you, Karen. Our next reader is Mindy Cronenberg, Yearning for a Tea Party in Assisted Living from Miller Place, New York. Mindy.
Thank you. Thank you, Gayl. Thank you, everybody. This is such a privilege to be a part of. Yearning for a Tea Party in Assisted Living. It's been so many years since a rabbit engaged her, pocket watch ticking a hurried rhythm, her eyes widened for adventure, the tumbling down tunnels and emergence toward a welcoming light. The clatter and clink of dishes and cutlery now bring a timed music with a knock at the door. Pedestrian fare for her tray table, the masked voices of the hallway disappearing as the door closes. At 90, the walls of her room shrink around her limbs, brightly studded with photographs of her children, the smiling faces of familiar adults, and the television muttering day and night about staying inside, staying distanced, staying safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Next is Patty Tanner for Wave. She's reading from Locust Valley, New York. Patty?
I'm you now.
Patty, are you here?
Yes, I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Hi, Patty.
Ah, Patty, I haven't seen her.
I want to give credit to this image to Dr. Michael Osterholm on television. He said it's very important gathering us together today. Thank you. I really appreciate it. He said it was really very important how we imagine this virus. The image was so important. He said everybody keeps talking about a wave. He said no. He says not a wave, not a rhythmic undulation, but a forest fire consuming all the virus touches. The fever that engulfs our lives ignites my rage at those who could have stopped it. Chose instead to smother cries of I can't breathe in the street and in the bed, and set the world ablaze in wild conflagration.
Yeah. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
The next poet is Rita Rose, reading Pandemic Skateboarder from West Babylon, New York. Rita Rose.
COVID on a skateboard rode by today. No face covering, no gloves, red t-shirt draped his shape. Neon yellow shorts highlighted his gray and black sneakers. He wore a grin as wide as a viral brim. As he skated past, I pointed to my mask. Thinking his youth offered invincibility, he chuckled. I warned, this virus will force you to your knees. COVID on a board dismissed me with a wave and rolled along. Silly boy, you cannot push off what you do not see. Death will be your last wish. You better bail, isolate, skate home, or this bug will high jump you to heaven above.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you for your picture as well. Our next reader is Ellen Pickus, reading Quarantine Dreams from Baldwin, New York.
Thank you, Gayl. Thank you, poets. This is a memorable day. Quarantine dreams. We will wake someday in the future, our skin so ready for another's touch, or hardened to a carapace, will retreat like turtles. We are the lucky ones in here, safe and fed, even enjoying birdsong on the other side of the window. Only outsiders cause dread. But we need other people far more than bread. How do we trust our lives to those unwilling to protect us, exhaling poison into our shared spaces, dreaming of imaginary powers?
Thank you, Ellen. Next reader is Peter Vanderberg. He's reading Gospel of Cycles from Massapequa, New York.
Thank you, Gayl, and everybody. Such an honor to read with all of you today. So this poem is actually, I'm going to dedicate it to my student, Joseph Doria III. Gospel of Cycles. The day before school closed, my student tells me catastrophe happens every 100 years. He is proud to know this, shows me a graph on his screen. He has become the teacher, can name and map what we fear. His father wakes at 2:30 a.m. to work at his grocery store in the city every day. The pandemic is rampant there. Joe sometimes goes to help out because his father's workers are, quote, dropping like flies. We agree there is something reassuring about a graph, the cycle of it. Yeah, Joe says, like we've been through this before. We both want to think someone has the answers. I asked my grandmother the last time I visited her if things felt this crazy during the war. She remembers herself, seems stronger in remembering. She says it was worse. A star in every window that lost a sun, but we were all in it together. Now no one trusts anyone anymore. She's right. I look sideways at everyone now. Nothing is certain. I listen to Mass on the internet, third Sunday of Easter. It is still Easter. The length of this holy season surprises me every year, but so do the magnolia blossoms on our tree and how long the dark waits to come each day. Things feel different these days, but the persistence of spring is more certain than ever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Our next reader is Carmen Bugan, reading Fields. She is located in Stony Brook, New York.
I don't see Carmen, so I don't think.
Okay. Okay. Next is Douglas Weezy, reading the COVID-19. He is located in East Northport, New York.
I do see Douglas. You just have to unmute and.
That better?
Yes, and you don't have a video, Douglas. I don't know if you use that.
No, I can't see it, but that's okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Right.
Hi, Douglas.
Hi. So this is number 1443, the COVID-19. Those of us lucky enough have been sent to self-isolate in our makeshift home offices, tight closets, a dark basement. This has now led to an increase for some in online virtual meetings through Zoom, endless waiting for late users to come. Many can't perform their jobs from a bedroom. Nurses, doctors, the police, and firemen. Here's hoping the rest of us will join them soon. We now have come to show support to the end for frontline workers with a bright rainbow posted in windows as they help us mend. If people do venture out on the road, they must still be mindful of speed limits. Easy to gun it, letting the fuel flow. Deer and fawns are not as timid. In sprawling suburbia, I spot them stroll while hawks fly, spread wings vivid. A lack of contact has taken its toll. Agencies have played many a pet animal companionship helps fill the hole. Elbow bumps and head nods are the safe bet, replacing shakes and hugs and warm embrace. With PPE, no way around that yet. Everyone wears latex gloves, face shields, face masks to prevent breathing on one another. Hand gel and wipes gone from stores with no trace. Crowds hoard TP for them and their mother. Essentials and cleaning products are gone to find it marked up by triple. Why bother? Bare shelves are filled with off-brands run amok. Nothing on sale, no returns, no rain checks. Paying with cash, you'll be out of luck. No exercise, my daily routine wrecked. I have gained the quarantine 15. It may take some time to get rid of all this dreck. While in hiding and no reason to preen, the corona beard is a wiry beast, out of control and starting to grow mean. We've tried trimming ourselves without ease. Asymmetrical, haphazard clown cuts are the result of the clippers' mad feast. All classes have been canceled in fear, but continues at home with online teaching. Parents with just one more chore in this rut. Some good news aired, gave proms reaching millions of kids who lost out with warm raves of hope and connection they were seeking. With no parties to celebrate, birthdays, cars drive past houses in large caravans of young and old, honking loud as they may. Online shopping for most Americans is the new way to get everyday needs. Packages arrive through the mail, no hands. Finding ourselves cooped up with family, we're playing, relaxing, often content, more together than in yesteryear, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Our next reader is Valerie Griggs, reading August from Valley Stream, New York. Valerie.
Thank you. I'm on page 158. The Areopagus. Experts equivocating over data. Scientists swearing orthodoxy. And the non-essential unequivocally dismissed. Heart Island anonymity. The elderly cut off, undefended, endangered, those who were going to die anyway. A prejudiced virus, mask myths, anecdotal antidotes. Such a strange language for a pandemic, stranger than the leper's bells. There's a sickness in our speech, deadlier than the latest version of the coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Next is Sybil Bank. Remind Me What Matters. June 2020. She's reading from Great Neck, New York. Sybil.
Remind Me What Matters, June 2020. Seeking touch, pale honeysuckle drapes its stems around the maple, stretching high, greeting sun's streaming light. I pick a flower, inhale its luscious scent, soft satin petals, amber stamens, curved green leaves rest in the palm of my hand. How tender are the pleasures in this bower of mine, shelter of giant tulip trees, unfolding begonias, bird duets, and riffs of breeze. But I am mindful of bees' angry stings, mosquitoes' bites, reminders of the world outside, where turmoil rises must be faced before it fades. We're in this together, the voices say, but what a fear that lurks and preys like undertows of ocean waves that drag me down, my lungs exploding, my life imploding. I breathe, blink my eyes, I'm still alive, don my disguise, mask, cap, glasses, gloves, take a walk, pretend the world will mend.
Thank you, Sybil. Our next reader is Emily Sue Sloane, reading A Sunday Morning Hike, Imagined During Quarantine, from Huntington Station, New York.
Thank you so much, Gayl, and thank you, Caitlin, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and thanks to all of you who are listening. A Sunday morning hike imagined during quarantine. I walk a rocky brown path beneath towering oaks and maples. A stand of birch trees reminds me to look, really look. A painter's brush strokes white against black vertical lines and a dark green canopy. The only sounds, an occasional squirrel sifting through the forest debris, and my panting breath and scuffling feet. I make my way up the hillside, careful to march my feet over roots that hold a stronger claim to the path than mine. At the top, I stop to let my heart and lungs reset. Human chatter rises and fades as other hikers pass with a nod and a wave. The view, worthy of Surat's hand, the sounds, sparkling waves dotted with boats and birds, a green hillside on the opposite shore, decorated with houses, stately and simple. A white church spire reaches for the clear blue sky, its twin reflected on the water below. All that's missing are picnickers in bustles and top hats. I inhale the familiar Long Island summer, free of masks, free of worry about walking in another person's wake.
Thank you, Emily Sue. Next is Robert Savino, reading Yellow Flag with a Q, from West Islip, New York.
Thank you, Gayl. Yellow Flag with a Q. When I awoke, everything was different. I wasn't sure if spring had matured to summer. Outside, I imagined it to be mid-June. Photos and banners of graduates pasted on doors and posters on front lawns. It was strange, though, to have hibernated since March, when February felt warm and innocent. I've not had time for listless days creating words on a Scrabble board or collecting lines of scribble from endless scraps of paper. Anything in hope to triumph over abandoned ellipses, wondering if today is Saturday, and if it were, would it matter? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next is Sherry London Pastor Love, reading Bay Breeze, and she's reading from Westbury, New York.
Bay Breeze. We drive to the water, our skin pallid from days slipping into weeks, tripping into months of quarantine, craves the shoreline breezes. The salty air finds its way through the bandana, clumsily tied through tousled hair, covering my mouth and nose. What else finds its way through this cotton border? I try to push all thoughts away to the edges of my brain, which feels like it's bouncing in the spin cycle. Instead, I dig my sneakers into the sand and mouth a silent thanks for this glorious day, for water, serene and blue. It reaches across to land within sight, reminding me that it too must feel caged at times, finite borders under an endless sky.
Thank you so much, Sherry. The next reader is Robert Windorf, reading Quiet Village. He resides in Williston Park, New York. Robert Windorf.
I don't see Robert.
Don't see Robert. Okay, we will move along. The next reader is Gayl Cohen, reading Father and Daughter in Time of COVID from Setauket, New York.
Gail actually emailed me. She's not able to join us today. So.
Oh, unfortunate. Okay. The next reader is Iris Levin, reading Bear Hug from Rockville Center, New York.
Just want to thank everyone for making this wonderful event happen. Bear Hug. When life seemed so hard for a 5-year-old, I remember finding solace in the muscular, gentle arms of my dad. He would wrap me in the comfort of his hug, not an easy squeeze, but a strong grip, a bear hug, magically removing fear and sadness, making everything better. And now, in this time of isolation, angst, and frustration, arms stretching out to embrace and be embraced, we sure could use a bear hug to make everything better.
How true. Thank you, Iris. Our next reader is George Northbrook. He's reading The Cough Hurled Round the World from New Hyde Park, New York.
George.
I'm here. I'm just getting ready.
Okay.
There have been so many thank yous expressed. I was wondering for a minute whether I should skip that part, but I can't. There can't be enough. And it means so much to have everybody gathered like this. When Ellen Pickus read her line about we need other people far more than bread, I think that really rang true for me, and I'm sure for many of us here.
Yeah.
The cough hurled round the world. Someone in Wuhan cleared his throat and, like that apocryphal Brazilian butterfly, unleashed a chain reaction over oceans, across continents, an ordinary tiny deed of shattering impact. Our world is quarantined, locked down for months. Its airports, office buildings, schools, and public squares emptied of their bustle. Panic rules financial markets. The elderly and frail, already too wary of Damocles, gasp till their lungs expire. with rare exceptions like the 10-year-old in Boston sewing handmade masks. All the news is dreadful now and trending worse in gloomy charts of epidemiology. Social distancing, of which some say we already had too much, becomes ideal. Sheltering in place, a euphemism for incarceration and agoraphobia. Churches are deserted at Easter, seders virtual, as hospitals attract throngs of desperate believers. Our hands are raw from washing, groceries smell of disinfectant. Once Goliaths in our confidence, now we tremble, microorganisms lurking at our fingertips. Still, the sun shines, and the warmth of spring predictably emerges unaware, while we too, robotic and numbed, cling to our routines for a semblance of normal. And, when we can, bend compassion outward.
Yeah. Thank you so much, George. Wonderful. Our next reader is Mara Levine. She's reading In the Springtime of COVID-19 from New York City, New York.
Can you hear me now? Thank you, Gayl.
Hi.
And thank you for creating this beauty, this beautiful book out of a time of such horror and suffering. Even though I live in New York City now, I spent many wonderful years on Long Island, and especially at Walt Whitman House. So this is a wonderful reconnection for me. My poem is on page 25 for anyone who wants to, and it's called In the Springtime of COVID-19. Consider the ups of the lockdown. On the empty pages of the street, squirrels chase romance up the branches. Bikers speed up along ghost lanes. Pop goes the weasel, floats up from Mr. Softy, unlocks our childhood playground. Dolphins show up in the Hudson from their ancient diaspora in the seas. On the street, we mask a sense of disbelief in masks our angels wear at beds of grief. Mostly, we watch at the windows, free of appointments and appearance, barefoot, nursing a cup of coffee, noticing the freshly painted skies, the sprouting leaves filigreed with light, a tiny spider spinning out its life. And each night, while we wander into sleep, watching the old silent of Chaplin, sniffing a flower as he wanders off into the next catastrophe. The woods are slowly inching closer, starting to canopy the homeless, camped on the ground like wandering holy men long ago, making their homes in the forest.
No. Thank you so much, Mara. Our next reader is Terry Simon. She's going to read Ode to the Coronavirus. She is based in West Hempstead, New York.
Yeah, thank you, Gayl. It's an honor to be part of this anthology. And I'd like to dedicate this poem to the memory of my son's best friend, Simon Mariani, who was like a second son to me and who died at age 46 from this dread disease, leaving a wife and 3 young children. And it's on page 53. While we were worried about missiles from North Korea nuclearization of Iran, tariffs from China, Mideast peace, terrorism, and climate change. A microscopic virus invaded the world. An unidentified flying object from inner space has brought the earth to its knees, spreading from country to country, social and economic upheaval, while we were trying to close our southern border. Now every country is surrounded by virtual walls. Towns, cities, and countries are isolating. Thousands are sick and dying. Most businesses are shuttered. People are panicking. Lives are irrevocably changed. Globalization is crumbling. While I sit like a prisoner in my house, I wonder if anything will be the same again.
Thank you, Terry. Our next reader is Kathleen Donnelly, reading In the Pandemic of 2020 from Stony Brook, New York.
Let me just say, Gayl, this is quite fantastic. I thank you for the invitation, and Cynthia and Kate as well. I work with the COVID. I wanted to just address one man's experience, knowing it represents tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in the country. In the pandemic of 2020, it's positive. Oh, and by the way, it's page 112. It's positive, your report says. Q-tip probe up your right, then left nostril, waiting for days to find out the result, counting on it being negative. You have the coronavirus, COVID-19. Who passed this virus on to you? And who did you pass it on to? You wish you knew. You've been so many places, contacted so many people, at work, at home, on the way from one to the other. You spent time in the local pub, marched arm in arm for Black Lives Matter with your white friends for your Black friends. You listened to the president, like him, didn't don and doff a face mask, social distance, pay much attention to washing your hands in public places. You voted for Trump once, plan to do it again, but don't understand why, and Dr. Fauci don't agree. Mask, distance, hand washing. Is that all it would have taken for a better result? No mandates from the top, you feel betrayed. You have a decent paying job. What will they do with you? Work from home, sick pay, leave or absence, let you go? How many colleagues are in the same predicament? Will the company close, leave hundreds of coworkers looking for the same job? You have rent due, utilities to cover, school loans to pay off. You were doing so well. Does all momentum fade or disappear? But of all your responsibilities, there's you. How will this foreign invader treat its host? You know someone who tested positive, remained asymptomatic. You know several friends of friends that died. You have no comorbidities, hypertension, obesity, diabetes, kidney disease, coronary artery disease, heart failure, cardiomyopathies, no COPD. In fact, never smoked or vaped. A little pot in high school, but that was long ago. You kept your nose to the grindstone, worked hard in college for good grades. Now, do all that is asked of you on the job plus more. It doesn't seem fair. What is a pandemic anyway? If your dad has it, contact tracing. He has all of the comorbidities, still working in his latter 50s, not ready to retire, remortgage the house to help you launch. Your buddies have wives, young children. Everyone carries debt. You call your doctor who only sees his patients online. I'm positive, you say. He makes his recommendations. Stay home, rest, isolate, plenty of good food, hydrate. If you begin to have trouble breathing, go to the hospital. You ask, will I need a ventilator? Will I have a stroke? Will I have lasting effects? Will I be immune after this? How long will I be sick? How long will I be contagious? What medications do you treat this with? He responds, honestly, nobody knows. We need the vaccine. Stay home. Put your things in order, just in case. Try not to tax your immune system with too much stress.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate it. Our next reader is Wendy Trantz, Wear It Well, from Franklin Square, New York.
Okay. Gayl and Caitlin, thank you so much. And I am so honored to be amongst poets as fantastic as we're hearing today. And my poem is called Wear It Well. Nostradamus wore one, survived to write his prophecies. Scheherazade wore one, told stories for 1,001 nights. Cowboys wore one while riding the range. Dr. Barnard wore one while performing the first heart transplant. Spider-Man wears one, doesn't stop him from fighting crime. Then why, during a pandemic, do so many refuse to wear a mask? Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next reader is Glenn Garamello, reading Bird's Eye View from Huntington, New York.
Thank you, Gayl, and thank you and gratitude to all the contributing writers. A bird's eye view. From above, everything beautiful. On the high wings of a drone, the landscape, a patchwork tattoo of color. Fields rolling like sea waves, hills dancing in shadow play, a perfect bird's eye view. No people to be found, no one walking about, no crowds gathering for a picnic. Everyone inside, hiding from the virus, hibernating as if spring never happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Our next reader is Doreen Spungen, asking, am I allowed to be afraid? From North Woodmere, New York. Doreen Spungen.
Thank you, Gayl. Thank you for the honor of being in this book. Thank you all for this afternoon that is a strange combination of pain and comfort to be among us all, to be sharing. Thanks. Am I allowed to be afraid? This over-the-top, worse than the zombie scare, Michael Jackson, flying monsters, Stephen King is here. Am I allowed to be afraid, scared of everything, soup to nuts? I'm going crazy. Am I going crazy or going to die? Or just going to risk my life going for milk? America the beautiful, planet Earth, winner of the pageant until God stepped out for a smoke. I am not too young to die, but I'm not volunteering. I'll die for you, my loves, if that is what is needed. I'll do it, yes, but count on this. I will be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Let's see, I'm up next. I'm going to read my poem for a small boy in India. His name is Rahul. Off to work. As small as Rahul is, for he's only 6, and so far away from me, he shrinks in the distant Tumakuru dawn as he carries his filthy plastic bag his mother bestowed, sent him off again, unmasked, barefoot, with his lump of malnourished belly. As I relish another spoonful of rainbow cake, tartufo on top, mask in my pocket at the diner's outdoor table, 6 feet from others, and Rahul rummages through a garbage dump, littered with broken glass, slits his thumb as he lifts a shard from among stinky discards, prizes the plastic piece to recycle for his mother for a few cents per hour, since March, when India closed its schools, and no one has praised him as bright as his teacher had since then. As I, on leave since the pandemic, unknowing how to teach online for real, pay the check to the masked waiter, drive off with Rahul facing up, lying next to me, his eyes open and bound by where I take them as they look out from the front page. But Rahul and I will never meet. The further, the faster I drive away in my distant galaxy of experiences. Yet the more he shrinks from my sensibility, the dimmer each step he takes in my view with his bleeding, unshod soles, his stabbing, hungry belly. The larger Rahul gets in the looming, entangled human family. So now I understand, well, we have time, and there are some who have not signed up, but I have a request by Evelyn Candell. Are you here, Evelyn?
I don't think Evelyn is here.
Okay.
No, I
have a list. Annie Karpenstein, are you here?
Annie is here, I saw.
Okay. Annie, tell us what.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Gayl. Thank you, Caitlin. And thank you for the honor of being included in this anthology with all these wonderful writers. My poem is on page 46, Silence of Solitude. Everything different in the time of COVID. Every day the same. What day is it? So much empty time, so little accomplished. Time endless stretches like a limp elastic band. Some busy themselves cleaning out closets, cluttered with unused, outdated fashion. Donate old clothes, shoes, even linens. Their bags neatly lined up, wait for removal. I consider letting go of clothes that don't fit, high-heeled shoes I can no longer wear, knitted slacks, all items in new condition, treasures to save, almost a sin to discard. Closets disorganized, overfilled, mirror cluttered furniture of my mind, overstuffed drawers unable to close. The past spills out like a pot boiling over, creates chaos. My body, a holding cell filled to capacity, cries to be cleared. Heart and mind unsettled, muscles, cells rebel in pain. Unmourned losses demand attention. Closets can wait. I venture into dark inner landscape, a wilderness overgrown with weeds, dead bushes, no paths. Destructive words reverberate, an echo chamber of old tapes, programs, erroneous beliefs. Negativity parades proudly, spouts cutting remarks. I erase hard drive of my mind, empty my body of trapped emotions, expectations of others, of self. Dump anger, fear, worry, resentment, purge the pain. Wilderness less dark, weeds, bushes shrivel. I scour and shine furniture and holding cell, accept the past, the good, the bad, the painful. Silence of solitude softens my heart. I practice forgiveness, take responsibility, create the life I want to live, redecorate my inner space with kindness, joy, and love, liberated, born anew in the time of COVID. My pristine inner landscape doesn't last. Like COVID, it stages a strong comeback as if it never left. Did I celebrate success before total eradication? Did I neglect the step? Do I shower once and never again? Do I brush my teeth to be forever clean? Do I only dust and vacuum a single time? I realize all cleaning is an ongoing process. Grateful for the insight, I practice emotional cleansing regularly. Thankful for tools to heal my inner landscape and transform my life.
Thank you so much, Annie. Gloria Murray had expressed an interest in reading. Are you here, Gloria? I don't know if she made it. Gloria?
Gloria, Gayl, but actually I have a list of people who are here a little early.
Wait, I have one
So-
other man. I have one other person, Dan Kerr.
Yes, Dan is here. He was here early.
Okay.
Those of you who have read some of my poetry know a lot of it has to do with faith and my experience growing up with the nuns of St. Philip Neri Grammar School in Northport. The nuns always said you can judge someone by the quality of their companions. So as I look at all the great poets assembled here today, I look up and I think somewhere in heaven a bunch of nuns are smiling as we begin this reading today. My reading, I'm not sure what page of the book it is, but it's called The Crucifixion of David Dorn. I wasn't born yet when they killed Emmett Till, but I Googled the pictures of his battered face looking up from his coffin. I saw the head of President Kennedy explode in the Zapruder film and the bloodstains on Jackie's pink dress. I listened to the I Have a Dream speech at the Lincoln Memorial and saw Martin Luther King lying dead on the Memphis motel balcony. I watched RFK lying on the floor the night he won the California primary as the busboy cradled him in his arms and the blood flowed from his head. Like all Americans, I was disgusted when George Floyd called for his mama just before he stopped breathing. During the eulogy at RFK's funeral, his brother Teddy famously said, "My brother need not be idolized in death beyond what he was in life." As I watched the large crowds assembled for the 3 Floyd funerals, I thought of the families of the 100,000 coronavirus victims and others who had died during the plague. While 6,500 people passed by his casket and 500 people attended his last funeral in Houston, I thought of my aunt's funeral that was limited to 10 mourners, graveside only. The instigator of the Crown Heights Brooklyn riots against Jews delivered the eulogy, and Al Sharpton threw gasoline on the fires of division in a country all united in their outrage over the killing of this gentle giant. The pregnant woman who George Floyd once held the loaded gun to her belly was not invited to speak at the funeral. As the whole country wants to take a knee for George Floyd, will anyone take a knee for David Dorn? While George Floyd sold crack cocaine in Houston, David Dorn worked with disadvantaged inner city youths in St. Louis. While Floyd served time in jail for selling drugs and armed robbery, David Dorn rose to be a police captain in St. Louis and later became a police chief. Cap Dorn was a role model for compassionate police work, especially to the young Black officers that flocked to him and he mentored. As America ignores the advice of Ted Kennedy and idealizes George Floyd and death beyond what he was in life, why do so many of us ignore the life and death of David Dorn? The Gospel of John tells us there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for a friend. David Dorn responded to the burglar alarm at his friend's pawn shop and was shot by young Black men seeking justice for George Floyd. Someone videotaped the 77-year-old Black policeman on his face in the street and streamed the 13-minute video of him dying on Facebook. You can see David Dorn's eyes fluttering as he bleeds to death, while young Black men pass by joyfully with the fruits of their looting. As Jesus was dying on the cross, he cried out, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." David Dorn's son said he was passionate about helping young people and would have forgiven the looters that killed him. When Jesus breathed his last, the centurion at the foot of the cross said, "Truly, this man was God's son." As David Dorn breathed his last breath, a passerby said, "Oh my God, they've killed somebody's grandpa." When the news of the crucifixion of David Dorn was reported, the St. Louis Black Police Officers Association released a statement. It said he was the type of brother that would have given his life to save the looters. Black lives matter. Black lives matter, especially somebody's grandpa, Police Chief David Dorn. Thank you.
Daniel. I did see Gladys Henderson. Gladys, would you like to share your poem?
Good. Thank you so much, Gayl, for such a great book. What a wonderful job you did for this anthology, and what a great afternoon. That's soothing and healing in so many ways. Poem for your birthday, for Marjorie Day on the occasion of her 100th birthday. On this day, low clouds hold up a June sky, and the lake that is always mostly calm is troubled by a fierce wind. It curls its way around the belly of the pond, hemming in the shorelines, lifting dangerously high the flight of gulls and geese. Irises and roses have started their display of exquisiteness. Doves have made pairs. They run after each other, playing tag and catch me if you can. St. Mary's plays its carillon. I sing a song of the saints of God, and I sing along. The childhood memory spurs me to find the words. Breeze trembles the newly emerged maple leaves. They curl in unison like mouths of evangelical choristers singing with urgency, perhaps that listeners might find peace. Heaven has helped me on this beautiful day with its array because I have been asked to write a birthday poem for you. But I cannot ignore that America is burning. Today, thousands of men and women are marching, more willing to die from the virus than to keep their silence. They crusade for the right to live in an America free from prejudice and those police that entitle themselves to slaughter men and women of color. You have lived 100 years, and this lake with its loveliness has hardly changed in all those years. I give you this poem and pray with heaven's help on your 101st birthday, America will have finally changed and we will be free at last. Free at last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Gladys. Wow.
Thank you.
I saw George Wallace. George, I want to thank you for writing your beautiful overview of our book. I appreciate that. And George,
thanks for the invitation to do that.
Share your poem with us.
If only I could play Fourier's Elegy like Lorna Breen. This poem for Lorna Breen and the strength of her compassion and the unspoken depths of her wounds. Dr. Lorna Breen, age 49, Chief of Emergency Medicine at New York Presbyterian, who loved playing cello and snowboarding and posted pictures of it on Facebook, who was at the center of it all, the impossible situation come horribly true in the streets and hospitals of New York City, the great pandemic of 2020. 2,000 inpatients piled up in every bed, behind every hospital door in New York, ambulances idling 3 bodies deep in the parking lot, dead on arrival, and nobody else to deal with it but those who took an oath to do so. The rest of us ordered to avoid all contact with death. This poem is for Lorna Breen at the limits of her endurance when the virus took over, sick with it first, and then she recovered just enough to go back to work. And she tried to do her job, and it killed her, said her dad, also a doctor back in Charlottesville, Virginia. And for every doctor, every nurse and emergency worker, of course, in New York City, all day and all night at the center of the storm, had to stand at the window at 7 p.m. and offer applause and then return to the silence of our rooms. Day after goddamn day, they get up out of their grim beds and they throw themselves back into the thick of it. Yeah, how to ever even say again, avoid it like the plague. Stupid. How can we ever use that cliche again? But most of all, this poem for Lorna Breen, 49, who loved to play cello and save other people's lives. Lorna Breen, who took her own life after saving many others, who did herself and her family proud, who stood side by side with her colleagues, no place to hide from the terrible witness, offering all the strength in her all too human body in aid and comfort to the dead and the dying, until there was just no more to give. For Lorna Breen.
Thank you, George. Have we passed by anyone? Any other contributor who would like to share his or her poem with us?
Oh, I have a few.
Do you have anybody else?
I have a few people, Gayl.
Okay.
In the beginning. Let's see. Carolyn Raphael will be At Home When Old.
Thank you, Caitlin. I am unmuted, am I? Yes. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, of course, Gayl, and thank you, everybody, for this outpouring. Hard to listen to and somewhat healing, it really is. I wrote this poem a year ago, and as I reread it, I have the very slightest flicker of greater optimism as more people get vaccinated. I hope we go in that direction. This is At Home When Old. This plague enshrouds me, numbs my sensibilities as I languish in my safe cocoon. Yet my heart still bleeds for victims falling like raindrops on my unused car, and for the death of another Black man when a white policeman presses a knee on a human neck. New meaning to taking a knee. No protest here, but protests do proceed. The peaceful ones boast mostly youthful faces, impatient, immortal, immune, except to batons and pepper spray. As if exempt from empathy, the president shouts for law and order. I'd like to march as I did in 1969, but my legs won't support me. I offer support with small donations, meager fare when people are hungry, stripped of jobs and homes. I'm just an observer, watching, always watching. Where do I start? Where will we finish? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Carolyn. Caitlin, do you have anybody else on your list?
I think she's muted.
Yeah, I think she's muted.
Oh, Caitlin?
Hi, there we go. Okay. So next up, we have J. Barrett Wolfe, who we announced earlier.
Oh, right, and didn't make, good. Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My apologies for being late. The errands don't just do themselves. I'm going to read A Plague on All Our Houses, page 149. Dwelling in the ever-increasing alone, waving at each other in the wire, seeing the details of faces on a screen in meetings that are mandatory and socializing that isn't. Some are used to the quiet. They don't notice fewer sounds, the growing space between the four lanes, Jake brakes howling toward what's left of Kamikaze Curve, and the next press conference explaining that science is not voodoo and you aren't immune because you whine, pray, or argue. Blue gloves, bandanas, artfully contrived face coverings, wandering the aisles of the grocery store. The 6-foot hyphenation of the checkout line. If we didn't know better, we might expect some lamb's blood on the doorpost, an altar in every living room, or some such foolishness, begging the supplier of plagues to cut it the hell out. But this is the doing of man, the endless, insistent ego of knowing it all. We are all in this apart. And no one is reclining on the veranda, sharing a ventilator with their beloved.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. And next up, we have Margaret Wall.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Gayl. My poem is on page 38. It was inspired by a headline. Love letter to LaGuardia. Empty rope barriers stand in vacant lines. No flight attendants to greet us. No check-ins or handsomely dressed pilots. No hustle of busy travelers or their rolling luggage. No announcements of final boarding, just the silence, the emptiness. Lots of space where cabs, limos, and Ubers once were. No honking horns or Port Authority police, no yelling for parked cars to move, no arrivals or departures. American, United, JetBlue, Delta, Southwest, Virgin, all wait for reopening plans until airplane engines roar in New York City's busy skies. I dream to soar inside clouds on my way across the country. My love, my travel diary, we stand stalled to what has become our new normal.
Thank you, Margaret.
Beautiful. All right. And next up, we have Maureen Hadzik-Spisak. Want to unmute Maureen?
Yes, I did. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Gayl. Thank you, everyone. Your poems were wonderful. My poem's on page 23, Silence. It seemed like the perfect day. The sun was shining, no humidity. Cotton candy clouds rolled across a vivid blue sky. But there it was, that absolute unnerving silence. No lumbering school buses clattering down the street. No harried mothers in expensive cars trailing the school buses. No early morning lawnmowers chewing up the startled dandelions. No garage doors grind open, followed by that bump of closure. No hustle, no bustle, just that absolutely unnerving silence. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Maureen.
I have two more people as of right now. We do have a little bit of time, so if anyone else wants to write in the chat if they're interested. But all right, so next up we have Nina Yavel.
Hi, thank you so much, Caitlin, and everyone. What a wonderful reading. Really enjoying this day. I have an old poem. It's called Flowers at Falmouth. I kind of moved it into the current day. At the edge of June, the lilacs blacken. The iris burst like popcorn, wilting within hours. Blossoms by the sea take their turn, weave within the salt wind. Quilted reds burrow, yellows skip, the oranges dance, and white cloaked bells like choral groups sing to the matted earth. In June, the roses will split from their brace to rest upon the thorns. New sacrifices unfold, petals adrift on the slate sea to release us to flower again.
Thank you, Nina.
Beautiful. And next up we have Sandra Goloff.
Yes. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Gayl. We promised them a rainbow. The children created their rainbows. Parents hung them on the door. They colored them on the sidewalks to show hope was much in store. The pandemic raged right through us, taking lives with all its might. Yet we still promised all the children the rainbows were in sight. While most put on their face masks, sanitized their homes, and scrubbed their hands, yet when the COVID curve came down, the children still couldn't understand. They could not see a rainbow, not a colored stripe in view, because love, hope, and kindness was spoiled by a few. Adults filled with hate and violence raged through neighborhoods like a storm, creating thunder, fire, and lightning the children never viewed since born. The lives spared by the virus, the storm began to ravish, turning man upon man, ruining much with all their madness. The children shrieked in despair. The pandemic had taken so much. Closed their schools and isolated all, snuffed out lives that it had touched. They could not see the promised rainbows, the ones that they had drawn. They only saw the worried adults, faces filled with despair and scorn. They saw hardship, loss, and crisis, though much had started opening up, created by this horror, created by this stuff. We must now all band together to stamp out prejudice and violence. It must be done by us. It can't be done by science. The children envisioned a rainbow, its colors bright with promise. We must fill the sky with gold, its colors free of tarnish. We must patch up all the holes together as a nation to create the promised rainbow intact for the next generation.
Thank you, Sandra.
And I believe we only have one more reader. Again, if anyone else, we have a few minutes here, so if anyone else wants to jump in after this, we have Andrew Menzen next.
Ah, my doctor.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank
Hey, how are you? Thanks so much, and what a privilege it is to be part of this. The poem's What Lies Beneath. We now see each other only through our eyes. The eyes have been called the windows to the soul. We know now that glimpses inside reveal only a part of who we are. The masks we wear hide so very much. Perhaps until now, we did not know how much. We are, I think, keener observers since our landscape has become obscured. Take comfort, for what is inside remains. We need only work harder to both reveal it and be seen. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Well, I don't see anyone else in the chat there. So I think, Gayl, we did it. We got everyone.
Okay. Well, let me say this, that I want to thank all the wonderful contributors and the readers. And you have enhanced our empathy for each other. And that is a great service. You've enlarged all of us. So thank you all so much. I think your powerful poems make an important historic record. And I'm very moved by this wonderful reading today. Thank you for taking part. And I want to thank this young lady sitting next to me. This is Sophia Tarrant.
Hi, everyone.
She is my techie. Without her, I wouldn't know how to push any buttons here. She enables, she is the administrator here, and she helped me navigate these machines. Thank you all so much. It's been a wonderful afternoon, and thank you all for contributing to the Corona Anthology, and thank you everybody who's been listening, and we appreciate all of you. And as I've said before, I wish you all good health and peace, and may we meet in the future in the third dimension. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, Gayl. Wonderful, wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Caitlin, you're a great Zoomer. Thank you for your hard work.
Happy to. What a beautiful afternoon. I'm so happy to be able to do it.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caitlin. and
Thank you,
Gayl.
Caitlin. for
Beautiful
studying.
day.
Thank you, Gayl.
Gayl, thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.
Caitlin.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you, Gayl,
Thanks to all.
Caitlin,
Mwah. It was
Everyone
wonderful.
stay well.
everyone.
Thank you. Be well, everyone.
Be well, everyone.
Everyone.
Great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. And remember to please contribute your voices for our Walt Whitman reading. Take a video of yourself. If you click on the link that I posted in the chat, you'll see there's a way to submit your videos. And we'll have a big Walt Whitman birthday bash on virtual like this. So please remember to do that. There's more details on our events page.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Caitlin, and wonderful work. Wonderful work, Gayl. Thank you. Thank you again. Be well and be
Readings
safe,
were so
everyone.
powerful, so wonderful. Thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you.
This is a
Thank
piece
you,
of
Gayl,
history.
and everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Do our quiet claps during the program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And those links are in the chat if anyone wants to get them. I'm just going to leave this open for just a minute so everyone can get any of those links that they missed. And I was telling everyone earlier, we're very low on books at the birthplace, which is a good thing. But if you want to get a copy, now is the time. If you haven't gotten one yet, order them. Or you can come into the birthplace and visit us and also get one in person.
Thanks, Gayl and Caitlin. I have to jump off now, but it's been a wonderful afternoon / evening.
Thank you, Nina, from coming across the ocean for us.
You're welcome. Thank you for including my poem.
Gayl, this was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you, Gayl. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, everybody. Very moving
Very
and
moving.
healing.
Right. Very cathartic.
And throughout the pandemic, discussions with people about maybe someday capturing the good that has come out of the pandemic. And it occurred to me you just did.
Definitely. Beautiful. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. And we hope to see you again at a future event as well. And this will be on YouTube. I should say that too. So be on the lookout for our YouTube channel. We'll have this.
Oh, great.
Great.
Share it with people you know.
Thanks, Caitlin, for all your work.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gayl and Caitlin. Wonderful day.
Thank you. So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right. Have a good week, everyone.